Hello, good evening. It's Monday. This is Over and Over and Over Again. My name is Richard, and this is the review. And there's quite a lot to review, actually. We've had another good week, haven't we? A couple of good wins in the Europa League and obviously in the Premier League yesterday. We're going to look at those games. We've got the Carabao Cup actually coming round this week on Wednesday. Brighton visit the Emirates, so we'll look ahead to that game, see which sort of team we would pick for that particular competition. And of course, on Saturday, it's the last game before a break that we're having in the season for some unknown reason. But anyway, we've got one more game to play before Christmas, and it's coming up on Saturday away at Wolves. So we'll look at that as well, and it will all be coming up the other side of this. Real Martinelli. It's now with Granit Xhaka. Is it going to be the third goal? It is the third goal. Granit Xhaka with it. That seems it. And we've got a big crowd in tonight, of course, as usual. Good to welcome back Melvin. You've had a couple of weeks away doing other stuff, which, we've missed you, but it's good to have you back. You okay?
Yeah, fine. I'm glad to be on with a couple of people I may or may not know, so I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I think one you maybe know a little bit better than the other one, perhaps. But anyway, good to see you again. And Jerome, of course, back again, actually. He was on a couple of weeks ago. Good to see you again. You okay?
Yeah, all fine. All fine, thanks. Cheers for having us.
Yeah, no worries at all. And of course, the other regular on the show, Neil, as well. How you doing, Neil? You feeling okay today?
Yeah, wonderful. Thanks for having me on, and great to be with Melvin and Jerome. What a double act!
Well, what
you, of course,
really?
Rich. That goes without saying.
Well, we take that for granted, Neil. Don't worry about that. Obviously, there's a couple of things that's kind of happened in the last couple of days. I mean, obviously, this is quite important. We are top of the league, and also this happened as well. Which we quite enjoyed. So that's been kind of summary of yesterday, really, in kind of a few seconds of videos. I mean, obviously, I want to start with a game actually yesterday. So if we maybe, I know not quite chronological, but I think yesterday's the one that's most on our minds after the weekend. So we'll have a look at this first. Now, if you get in a habit winning at Chelsea away, we've done it now. That, so it's quite nice that we've turned that around. For me, actually, I thought it was our most professional performance of the season. Actually, it was slightly different to the way we've been playing. It wasn't, it was a little bit more mature. We defended well. We played the game as it needed to be played, and we got a scrappy goal from a set piece. It was almost like the 1980s again, but not any less enjoyable for that reason, really. So it was probably, I think, our best performance in the circumstances of the opposition, where we were playing, the way that we set about the game, and the way that we got the result that we needed, the way that we managed the game after we scored as well. And I thought everything seems to be falling into place quite nicely. It's taken a bit of time. And as the season's going on, more and more issues that I certainly had before, thinking, can we do this? Can we do this? Suddenly we're starting to do those things now. And for me, yesterday was the perfect example of that, I thought. I mean, Melvin, what did you make of that yesterday? Because I thought that was such a good all-round performance, wasn't it?
It was a great performance, apart from the cutting edge.
Yeah.
We could have been sitting here this evening going, why couldn't we score any goals? We were all over them. It was it looked like a very easy game. No, it wasn't easy. We had total control of the game. We absolutely battered them. We were much better than them in midfield. They didn't have a chance or real chance. I don't think our goalie made a proper save.
No.
I felt relaxed. The only reason I didn't feel relaxed, I could have felt a lot more relaxed, was because I thought, I've been in these games before when we're 1-0 up, all over a team, and the other team gets a goal. A la Southampton or games like that. We've seen too many of them over the last X amount of years.
Yeah.
But as I say, I thought we were unbelievable. We just played around them. They were like dummies standing there. like dustbins. Like one manager said, you couldn't beat a dustbin. I can't remember what that was now, but it felt like that. We were just
Terry
going.
Neal said that. Terry Neal said that.
That's it, Terry Neal. That's correct, Terry Neal. So I felt it was like a little bit. I want to be OTT. It was a little bit like men against boys. Most certainly in the midfield it was. Where Partey, I thought, was on another planet, absolutely on another planet. But then again, I was getting very frustrated us not putting away the goals. I mean, just one example. There's been a few. Odegaard. It was on his left foot. He cut it back. Plenty of time. I think the goalie was out of position anyway. All he had to do was that expression go hit the target. Now that would have sealed the game up. The cigars would have come out earlier. But no, he missed it. And you know what happens in games like that sometimes. You miss a chance to go 2-0 up and you pay the price. And there was other areas as well where we should have scored or done better. But overall, I should have enjoyed the game more. So we were so much on top. As I say, I didn't because I got a memory.
No, I mean, I agree with you. And obviously, we should have won a little bit more comfortably than just 1-0. But ultimately, for me, the most important thing in that game was getting a result, because that one, it proved that we can go away and win these sort of games, because that's been an issue before. Yes, I know we've won at Chelsea the last couple of seasons, but that was important. But I thought the way that we went about the whole game from start to finish was so good. And yes, not scoring enough goals maybe was the only downside to it, and especially for Jesus, because he missed that big header, didn't he, in the first half? He should have hit the target with that, and then it might have maybe lifted that off of his shoulders, and then he may go on and got a few more. But I don't know, maybe he's going to save them up for after the World Cup for us, maybe. But yeah, that was maybe a slight concern. But I mean, Jerome, you must have been delighted with how we played, because every single player in that game I thought was brilliant, wasn't they? There wasn't a weak link in that team on Sunday at all for me.
Nah, and I think with that first 11, I think most of the time you get that. There isn't really a weak link in that starting 11, and it, how often have any of them players had a bad game? They might have had a bad spell for 15, 20 minutes, but overall, they play well together. They know exactly what they're doing, and I think it just goes to show how far we've come, because how often would you have thought we're going to come away disappointed from Stamford Bridge if we don't win this game? Even when we won there the last couple of seasons, we've never dominated a game like that before. The one last season was like, I've heard it said before, like a basketball game, just back and forth. That could have been 5-5 that game. Yeah. But to dominate possession, to restrict Chelsea to maybe 1 or 2 shots on target. I mean, I don't remember Ramsdale making a save.
No.
Even near the end of the game, when you think you're going to come under a lot of pressure, that didn't happen. So yeah, we really got yesterday what we deserved, and looking forward to the final game before the break.
Yeah, I mean, Shane's made a good point in the chat. He says, "Hi guys, is the World Cup coming at the wrong time for us? We're flying at the moment. We will lose momentum." Yeah, that is an issue. I guess it could be. We're not going to really know, are we, the impact of the World Cup on anyone until we come back at Christmas time and see, when we get going again, what impact it has on us and the other teams around us, I suppose. But yeah, it is unfortunate in a way it's come now, because we are flying at the minute. As you say, we're in really good form. We've got momentum with us. And sometimes that's really important in games, isn't it? So, yeah, it's a shame that we're going to have a break, really. But let's finish it well now and then see what happens after the World Cup. We can't do nothing else now. We're just going to have to wait and see what impact it does have. I mean, I know, Neil, you've probably seen this coming a lot more sooner than what I have. So you must feel very vindicated in a lot of the things that I know we haven't won anything yet. There's still a load of games to play. But for me, that performance, I've been waiting to see a performance from Arsenal that made me sit back and think, you know what? I can start to believe that this team's capable now of doing something special. Up until now, I've had moments where I felt, yes, we look really good, it's possible. And then these doubts in my mind thinking, we're going to go away to Chelsea, or we're going to go away to Spurs, or we're going to go and play one of these teams and we're going to fall apart, or we're going to lose like we did at Man United again. And all those things were nagging away at me. But after yesterday, it's only one game and Chelsea aren't in the best shape at the moment. But the way that we set about that game for me shows me that I can, the improvements now are obvious. In so many different areas that maybe have been, or maybe I haven't seen them as clearly as certainly you have, I suppose. And now I can kind of see things. I think, this team's got potential to do what it wants to now. And it's just a matter of young team, a little bit more depth in the squad's needed. and we can go on and push on from it. I mean, you must feel kind of quite vindicated with a lot of stuff that you've said over the last year, maybe, or even longer, perhaps.
Yeah, no, it's not about I've got a one-upmanship or anything. It's not that at all. I just saw something in the. I take you back to the first pod we did and the friendlies, and I said I've just seen something special. Do you remember? And I made a comment about it. I thought this looks really interesting, and that at the time was only with the introduction of notably Saliba, Zinchenko, and Jesus. But just those three additions just almost transformed the whole setup. I think Jesus has made such a monumental impact up front. He's almost inspiring Martinelli to improve and get better game by game, literally. Saka is Saka. We all know what Saka's about anyway. He's literally himself and Emil Smith-Rowe, who, mind you, has yet to come back. So that's going to be a big plus for us. Yeah. They carried the team for a long time. So we know what we're going to get with Saka anyway. But, just generally, his the way he plays is so driven. I mean, yesterday he 62 touches all over the pitch, and there's this fear about him not contributing goal wise, but everyone's saying it, even the pundits admitting that. But he's doing so much more. I mean, he's just involved in absolutely everything. Him, obviously, Saliba at the back has made Gabriel a better defender in my book. Ben White has been an inspiration on the right, unbelievably so. It's just lifted the whole team, and it's just they seem like they're playing for each other. They're in the right positions, on and off the ball. They're attacking, they're pressing, and they're aware of dangers around them. And Partey has been brilliant in midfield. And because he's doing what he's doing, he's allowed Xhaka to do what he's doing, which has completely become a different player and probably play to his strengths. And that's the key. I think Arteta has set them up now. Eventually, it wasn't working initially, and I think he was trialing and erroring and all the rest of it. And everyone was getting frustrated by what he was trying to do. And now it seems to have got to a kind of an end result where it looks like he's found the best positions for all the players, and they're all playing for each other like something else. And that was a great comment in the chat by who was it? Is it Shane? Can't read it. Just yeah. And I think there's pros and cons with the World Cup break. I mean, we at a time, maybe a couple of games before, certainly before the Forest game, I started thinking that we're looking a bit leggy and we're looking a bit tired. And I thought, actually, do you know what? If we can just get to the World Cup and still be on top, it will come as a good time for us, because I think we need a break, because not all the squad is going to the World Cup, and I thought that would be ideal. But actually now, it's a good point. It's pros and cons, isn't it? We are on a bit of a momentum here. They must be buzzing after that result of Stamford Bridge, all the boys. But we still got one more game to go and complete that. So I think in a way, I think overall I'm happy that the World Cup's come at this time. I know it's unusual and it's very unprecedented, but I think some of the players that do need a risk will get that, and I think that will help us. The only issue is whether Arteta will be able to drive them on their return. Some might come back as a World Cup winner. We don't know. And it's that drive to get them back into the mindset of, right, remember where we left off and we're not changing. We're still going for that same goal. That's the only concern, really, for me.
I mean, it's a real shame that this season of all seasons, when we're suddenly looking at a decent team, we're top of the league, that they have a World Cup in the middle of the season and break things up. It's not going to be a normal season, is it? And that's the only sort of, it's just come at the wrong season for me, because I'd like to see this Arsenal team just have a normal season, going at the games as normal all the way through the season and seeing where we could go. Whereas now I said this before, it's almost going to feel like a second season. When we come back in December, almost like you need a little bit of a pre-season before you start, and then it's almost like starting again. And all this momentum that we've built up is, hopefully it won't disappear, but it is a fear for me that it might do. Or if we've got to start again, if we lose against West Ham first game back, then it's almost like it's all gone. The whole momentum that we've built up the last 3 months is gone. And I don't know, it's a strange one. I'm really upset now, even more upset than I was about a World Cup in the winter anyway, even more so now that it's actually going to potentially disrupt our smooth running of the season, because that's how it's been. But we're not going to know that, are we? The only thing I would say is, O'Neill, you mentioned obviously Jesus, what he offers a team, and he does. There's no doubt his work rate is incredible. I've never seen a player work as hard as him. It's ridiculous. But there's going to be tight games where you need your number 9 to score you a goal. He's going to have to do it, because that's how you win games. That sometimes you need your number 9 to step up and get a goal. And it is a little bit of a worry that he's going this long without scoring. He's playing okay. He's doing a good job. He's doing good work for the team, but he's not scoring goals. And at some point, he's going to have to. and we need him to do it. He needs to score goals, and you can see he's snatching at chances, and he's not composed in front of goal, maybe as he was earlier in the season when they were going in. And he needs to get that off his back quickly. And, he needs one to go in off his backside, or, he needs a miss kick to roll in the corner, doesn't he, really? Just so that he can get off and running again. Maybe the World Cup might help him. If he has a good World Cup, scores a few goals for Brazil, he might come back flying. But for me, and as Melvin rightly said, it is a concern that, potentially we're winning a lot of games 1-0. Had Jesus been scoring the goals as a number 9 should be scoring, we'd have won a lot of those games 2-3-0, wouldn't we? And we'd be sitting here like not even worried at all about anything. So there is a slight concern, but I'm not concerned about how he's playing or what he's contributing.
Just mitigate your fears slightly. I think I totally agree. He does need to score more for himself than anything else. I think he needs to just get that feeling back of getting the ball in the net. But all good strikers, I mean, I'm even citing Haaland at some point might have a patch, go through a bit of a bad patch. We've seen it with all of them. Henry, right? If we talk about Arsenal, for example, they all do. But with the difference with Jesus is, although he's not putting the ball in the net, he's not completely gone. He's not bereft of all his duties. He's still doing all the other stuff. Yeah. So that for me, if you ask me, it's not a concern yet. But I do agree. Yeah, he does need to start putting the ball in the net. But let's wait and see what happens. The World Cup, you're right, might do him good. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, I mean, he's been selected in the squad, so that's a positive. And hopefully, if he goes and has a decent World Cup, scores a few goals, then, as you said yourself, maybe one of our players might come back with a World Cup winner's medal. It won't be Bukayo Saka because he plays for the wrong country, unfortunately, for him and for everybody else. But one of them might. I'd be surprised if it's him or Aaron Ramsdale. But anyway, we'll see. Shane has got a comment and he says, who's the most important player in the squad? Could it be Xhaka? Well, he's certainly one of the most important players. I think at the moment, the good thing is there isn't just one player that you can say, this is a player that we really need. Yes, that Partey's playing really well, Xhaka's playing really well. They're all contributing, aren't they? And that's the good thing for me. So I think it's difficult to pick like one who's the most important player because they're all important in a different way. And I think, Xhaka for me is a massively important player, but so are all the others around him because that's what it is at the minute. I mean, Melvin, we are more of a team than any individuals, aren't we? That seems to be the key to how it's going at the moment, isn't it? Do you think?
Well, you've got the way we can play, how the football's different now, Richard. Go back 18 months, when somebody got the ball, we didn't have anyone to give the ball to. It wasn't a team, it was 11 individuals. Now, when someone gets the ball, he's got 3 or 4 options. So yes, we are a team. That makes such a big difference. So no, there's certain players you would not want them to be injured for any period of time. But I think we now don't rely on those people so much. Partey, obviously, because he is special. He is special, but we can win games without him. I think that's the only one, in my opinion, that I'd really, really be worried about if he was out for a period of time. The rest of them, even Jesus, he does a lot of work, but yes, it's going to be a problem. But hopefully, I don't think it will happen. Over January and whenever it is, we might make some reinforcements to take the pressure off Jesus, because I don't personally think Eddie's the answer. If he is the answer, I don't know what the question is.
No. The question is, which striker do you not need if you're challenging for the title as your second choice striker? That's the question. If Eddie's the answer.
I think that people might think it's unfair, but I think that's what I honestly think, what I see with my own eyes. We all got our own ideas on how football should be played and could be played and who's a good player, who isn't a good player. We've all got different ideas, because otherwise we'd all agree on everything. We don't. He's not the type of guy you'd want to rely on if your centre forward gets injured. You'd not rely on him. He's okay, perhaps, on certain games to come on the last 10 minutes to do a job. And that job isn't necessarily to win you a game. That's the job to hold up the ball, chase down and stuff like that. And that's not what centre forward should do on a 40 or whatever 38 game Premier League season. So I think we are a team, and it's great to see the options that every Arsenal player's got when he receives the ball. That is so good. It's just flicking it about, and it must be demoralising. I was looking at Chelsea, the game yesterday, and I'm just seeing Chelsea players running this way, going that way, and they know, even though they're running towards an Arsenal player, they know they've got no chance of getting the ball. And after a while, it just must be, oh my God, I've got to go through it. And you can feel it in their body language. And really, Chelsea didn't put us under any pressure at all. And that was one of the reasons. They couldn't get the ball. And they knew that.
Yeah, no, exactly. They couldn't. And that is because of how the team is functioning as a unit. instead of, as you rightly said, we used to be a lot of individuals, didn't we? And we'd have some good players, but they didn't gel together as a team enough, did they? And obviously now we are. I mean, you mentioned Eddie Nketiah there, and we kind of saw it at the end of last season. He played a lot of games at the end. Yes, he scored quite a few goals, 5 in 10 games or something he scored, which isn't a bad strike rate. But ultimately, when we needed goals in them last few games against Tottenham, against Newcastle, games we had to win, he's our centre forward. He didn't score. And
with all due respect, I don't blame him for us getting done at Spurs and Newcastle.
No, I'm not saying it's his fault. No, I'm not saying it's his fault, but they're the sort of games where all your players need to step up to the mark and produce a performance to get the result. But as your centre forward, they're the games where the great centre forwards score you a goal. They do. They get you a goal in those sort of games. And yes, we didn't play well in either of them 2 games, and we didn't create an awful lot of chances. And I'm not saying that's Eddie's fault, because it isn't. But and had we had Jesus and had he played, who knows? But it seems unlikely he would have scored. But what I'm saying is they're the sort of games where when the pressure's on, the going gets tough, that you need. And I don't believe Eddie is good enough to do that in those games when it matters. And I'm not saying that it was his fault last season. I'm not saying that was the reason, but I don't think he's good enough to step up in those sort of games when it really matters. And this season in particular, when the games are going to could even be more important. Is he going to be the man if we needed him? I don't believe he is, and I think you're right. And I think we do need to buy someone in January to ease that burden on Jesus, and maybe not even ease the burden on, because he don't seem to have the burden of scoring, because he's not scoring, but we're still winning. But yeah, we need a better backup. And yeah, so I think what Shane says there. I mean, Jerome, would you agree then? That there isn't really one important player, is there, as such? They're all important in their own way, and that's a good thing, isn't it? Because we're not relying too much on 1 or 2 players now, are we?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's the best way to have it, so you're not too reliant. And with Jesus, I mean, he's gone however many games without scoring a goal. Yet we're top of the league. So imagine when he does start scoring. I think the difference, just going back to Nketiah, is that when Nketiah came into the team last season, he'd done very well. We were comparing him to what was there beforehand in Lacazette. Now you're comparing Nketiah to Jesus, and so the difference in quality is very big. I think with Nketiah, I think if he's in the starting 11, surrounded by 10 other players that are the starters, I think he might be okay. I think once you start putting a few of the sort of squad players in, and he's playing in that type of team, I think he might struggle a bit. Even though, to be fair, last season when he scored his goals, we had like Partey out, we had a few of the starters out, but I just think it's the different level of Jesus has sort of shone a light a bit on Nketiah, and he's a hard act to follow, isn't he, Jesus?
Well, he is, and if it'd be even a harder act to follow if he'd scored 15 goals by this point in the season, I suppose. But no, he is. You're right, and I think that's a good point actually. That it is now. We are having to compare Eddie to Jesus, because that's the player that he's coming on to replace, or that's the player that is playing in his position. So of course we're going to compare him, and yeah, we didn't have a player of that quality previously. But yeah, I mean, it almost reminds me of there's not the same gap between them, and they're not the same quality of player. But it's almost like when we had Francis Jeffers and Thierry Henry. Do you know what I mean? Francis Jeffers had no chance of being anything at Arsenal, because no matter what he did, he always come into the team. Well, he's not Thierry Henry, is he? And it always maybe gave us a negative impression of him. Maybe it's the same with Eddie to a certain degree at a lesser scale, because the gap's not as big between the 2 players as it was obviously then. But it's a similar kind of feeling for me. I look at Eddie, and that's kind of what I think. You're a nice guy, you're a decent player, you can score goals, but you're not quite good enough to take us to where we want to be going now. And unfortunately, that's the situation, isn't it? And if we want to improve and get where we want to go, we're going to have better. And I feel sorry for Eddie a little bit, because he's a nice guy. He's come for our academy, we love him, but unfortunately, I think you have to admit sometimes if a player's not quite good enough. I mean, Rob Holding's still around, and he's not really good enough either. But anyway, he's less likely to play, I suppose, or yes, less likely to be important. He can do a steady job, I suppose, whereas Eddie can do a steady job. So that's an issue. I mean, Neil, do you think that we are now obviously in a stronger position because we're not relying on 1 player or 2 players as we have done so much previously? Even in recent years, it's been like that, and now it isn't at all. I don't look at that team and think, oh my God, what would we do without this player or that player? I just look at it and think that we're a good team together. Everybody is in it together, And that's more important than having Haaland scoring 500 goals. It's more important to have a team like we've got. I'm not saying Man City haven't got a decent team as well, but you know what I mean? I'd rather have that we've got now than just have one player that you're relying 100% on. And if he doesn't turn up, we don't score. A bit like when we had Ian Wright at that time, wasn't it? If he didn't score, we were knackered. We couldn't win. And we're not like that now, are we? And for me, that's a really good positive step forward.
I don't care what anyone says. Individuals don't win premierships or titles. Teams do. You might have your standout players, but you can't just rely on one individual. And the other thing with relying on one or two individuals, the amount of pressure you'd put on those individuals is unreal. It's easy for us to sit here watching it and maybe commenting and criticizing and applauding and whatnot, but when you're actually in it and playing it, I'm guessing all three of you played football. You still do, Richard, from what I see on Facebook. So you know what it's like, and if you're the only person that's going to be changing the way a game is going, the amount of pressure on that individual's mind must be immense. So it's so much, and I think Saka, and as I said earlier, Saka and Emil Smith-Rowe bore that very well. During the times where it wasn't great, but they were carrying us through to a certain extent.
Yeah, they did.
And I'm so glad that we haven't got that anymore, especially on two very young lads. It's about a team. Melvin touched on it earlier. It's about a team. They're all playing for each other. They're all aware of the bigger picture. They're aware of their goals and what they need to achieve and what they need to strive for. And they're doing it together. No one is, I would say better than anyone else. Again, a good question in the chat. I mean, I can't pick anyone. I think they're all as important as each other. I really do believe that. There is not one player I'd say, yeah, we could do without them, because at the moment it's the collaboration of them all making it work. It's like if you take a cog out of a machine, it stops working, doesn't it? And at the moment, we're a well-oiled machine, and it's all of them are playing a part. So absolutely agree with that one, Richard. Yeah, it's about the team, and I'm so glad we're not relying on a couple of individuals. Two individuals are not going to win the league. It's not going to happen. Not even Haaland, I don't think.
Well, I don't know. He might do, but he's a machine, isn't he? He's not a human, so it doesn't really count. But I mean, it's interesting though, because I did the Emirates Stadium tour. Sort of, when was it? Towards the end of last season, at some point. We were down in London. We did the Emirates tour, right? And you get some photos done. I don't know if you guys have done the tour, but anyway, you can get some photos done. And we were asked who our favourite player was, because they were going to put their number on the pictures when you got them done at the end. And back then, and it was not even that long ago, it was only 7 months ago, it was easy to pick your favourite player because no one was sort of standing out. So there's only one or two. Obviously, Saka was the main one, and I've always liked Xhaka. But now it's like, if I was asked that question now, you'd find it struggle to answer. Who would be your favourite player? Because literally you could pick pretty much any of them. Do you know what I mean? And you could have a case for pretty much any of them now. Whereas back then, I say even just 6 months ago, I found it difficult. It was easy to pick one player because the one player stood out a lot more than they do now, and that's a good thing for me. It's a positive thing. I don't want to have a favourite player necessarily. I want them all to be my favourites, because then you've got a good team. So, but talking of that though, that obviously we're bigging up the team, saying how great we are as a team. We are. There is a slight little concern about the depth, and I think we saw that in the Zurich game just a week or so ago. I mean, you could look at the Europa League group stage and say, well, yeah, we did what we had to do. 5 out of 6 wins, won the group. We missed that ridiculous qualifying knockout game, whatever it is, that Man United have got Barcelona in, which is a shame, which is all good. That's what we needed to do. But I thought the opposition that we faced in that group, maybe apart from PSV, who looked half decent, the other two teams weren't up to much. And yet we did struggle in a few of the games we played against. And Bodo Glimt away, we were lucky to win that 1-0. We could easily have blown that game against Zurich last week, the weakest team in the group. And we struggled in the second half in that game. They had a goal disallowed. Yes, it was offside, but we were that close to blowing the top place in that group, and a group that we should have won easily. And I don't know, it worries me that the depth that we've got, when we make 5 or 6 changes to the team, as we did against Zurich, suddenly you're thinking this isn't the same. And I know no one's got, or maybe apart from Manchester City, have got enough players to make that many changes and it not really affect the team too much. But the drop off in some of these Europa League games compared to the Premier League has been a lot for me, too much, if we want to compete in the Europa League after Christmas, which obviously we want to do as well, don't we? I mean, Melvin, was that a worry to you, especially that second half against Zurich last week? I mean, he brought on Odegaard, he brought on Jesus, he brought on everybody, didn't he? Because we were playing so badly, and actually we got worse because I don't know what went wrong. I mean, that was a worry for me, just in terms of the players that are coming in. You want them to step up and say, yes, come on, manager, pick me because I'm good enough to play. And they haven't done that really, have they, in these Europa League games? Not consistently enough, I don't think.
I think it would be tough for these players to make an impact because look at the midfield, for example. If you take out two, Xhaka and Partey from our midfield and put two other guys in, was it Lokonga and who else played in midfield?
El
Neni. It's not the same, is it? It's not like for like.
No.
And that's the hub of the team. And therefore, we're going to lose the ball quicker. We're not going to give it to the right players at the right time. Everything comes from there. And that's why I went last week. I watched it and I was bored, I've got to tell you, because it was like chalk and cheese, what I'm used to, because we've been playing so well the first thing. Seeing that, you can see the difference. And I'm not saying that it is weaker, the second line. It's got to be weaker. But I mean, it's exacerbated because they don't play together as a team, the others. So therefore, they can't get to the level by magic. You've got to keep doing it. If we would play the lesser players 1 week, and we're glad we don't get me wrong, we play lesser players together 1 week and the great players the next week, yes, the gap will close up, but you'll pay a big price for that. It was very, very, it was, the atmosphere was okay. It was like you're looking at your watch, when's this game over? And at the end of the day, people were like whistling for the final whistle because we were 1-0 up and they were coming at us. And if had they equalised, nobody, I'm not saying they're a good team, but nobody would have been shocked. And it was one of those games where you will forget about it. Thanks for reminding me, Richard. But no, it was horrible. There are players there that might make it. There are players there that could get better, but there's no one that really stood out. I mean, actually, there's a couple of guys that played. For example, Vieira. You'd have thought he might have been showing that he's nearly there. I think he's the type of player that does need good players around him. He can't do it by himself. He's that type of player because he's not physical. He needs everyone else to have movement off of him. And if he hasn't got that, he's got to actually go past the player or do something special by himself. He ain't going to do it. And some players are like that, and he's most certainly one of them. So, no, listen, we got through. Thank you very much. And the only thing that worried me, we had to see the last 20 minutes. How many injuries do we have? It was like
we did
like the Alamo falling over. Everyone was falling over, and I think the guy who got a lot fitter that night was the trainer kept running on. It was like, wasn't it? It was. I'm sitting there going, "What happened now? Another one's gone down." It was ridiculous. So no, but anyway, we got through. We'll take it. But you're right. We do need a couple of other additions in the squad. People to actually are good enough on their own merit straight away to get in that first team. And
make a difference. That's what it's about, is it? It's making the difference to the game. And that's one thing from this Europa League group stage that I noticed, that none of these players have really come out. We thought Manquillos was going to be that guy in that first game. He was brilliant, scored a goal, set up a goal, and you thought, but he's not really got much opportunity since, for whatever reason. That's sort of, I don't want to call it a second string team because it's only really 4 or 5 changes at the most that he's been making. It's still, and then the main players are coming on. But it was a little bit of a worry for me all the way through the group stage, really. We sort of got through the games, but we wasn't convincing really in any of them, I didn't think, particularly. But ultimately, 5 wins out of 6 is all we could have wanted, really. So we got the job done. But just when we're playing the better teams in the knockout stage, which we're going to be, you look at the teams that's left in it, that you've got that extra round, you see who's going to get through out of there. It's going to be tough, isn't it, to progress into this competition? And for us to do that, we're going to probably have to play our first 11. And if we do that, what do we do in the Premier League? Because that's a worry. I mean, Jerome, is that still something that, I know we're not going to buy 7 or 8 players in January to solve all these problems straight away. We're not going to be able to do that, are we? But
no,
it's important that we do something in January, isn't it? Surely we've got to bring 2 or 3 in. Surely we've got to, haven't we?
Yeah, I think they will. I think they have to be honest. Look, the good thing is that we've been able to rotate, still qualify. I think if we were in the Champions League this season, we wouldn't have had the luxury of being able to rotate as much, because you play this team you make 4 or 5 changes. against these Champions League sides, you've got no chance. So I'm not too worried about it this season. Maybe next season would be more of a worry. So that's why, like you said, like January, bring a couple of players in, but more so with the rest of this season in mind, I think, than next season. Look, it's not ideal. Ideally, you'd want to play amazing every game. The players that come in will just slot in and they'd be the same quality. But unfortunately, the reality is they're sort of backups for a reason. They're not as good as the first choice players. But they've got the job done. And you can't really ask for much more than that. It's just not, our expectations are just through the roof at the moment. So you want to see us dominate, have 100% possession every game, score 5 goals, but it doesn't work like that. But they, he's done well to manage and rotate the team for that competition. Haven't come away touch wood so far with too many injuries, and yeah, it's good that, like you said, we've managed to not have these games in February, because United are in a mess with all these fixtures.
Yeah.
So yeah, job done. I think is just to sum it up.
Yeah, I mean, you're right what you say. Obviously, they are backup players, and the reason why they're backup players is because they aren't as good as who they're replacing. But even when we were last in the Europa League 2 seasons ago, in the group stage, we had a lot of rotation of the squad, and we won those games a lot more convincingly, didn't we? We scored a lot of goals. We were winning 3s and 4s and 5s and stuff like that, wasn't we? And yes, you could say maybe the opposition that in that particular group wasn't quite as good, although who'd ever heard of Bodo Glimt, for example? Zurich are second bottom in their league in Switzerland. So, were these teams any stronger than they were 2 years ago? The teams that we played then, we played was it a Norwegian team then, didn't we? Mulder. So, and we beat them comfortably in both games. So I don't know. I can't decide whether the teams in our group were better this time, the standards higher, or our backup players aren't quite as good as they need to be. I don't know. Or maybe a bit of both, perhaps. It's come together. You've got
up until now, if we're going to struggle in any games, I'd rather us struggle in those Europa League games than in the Premier League games. I think that's just where the focus is.
I mean, what about in the new year though, Jerome? Obviously, because we're going to be knockout stage, last 16. It's a good opportunity to go a long way in Europe, isn't it? I mean, what's going to take priority then? If we've still got the same squad of players, we can't play the same 11 every single week in all those games, can we? It's just not possible.
No, well, I think instead of making 4 or 5 changes, he'll make 2 or 3. I think. I don't think if we're playing a very strong team, say we play, I don't know, say Barcelona get through and we get Barcelona in the last 8, he's not going to be rotating as heavily. He'll probably play the whole first team and just go for it. I don't think he'll play the keeper, the sub keeper. I don't think he'll be playing holding centre back. So
let's hope not.
Yeah. So
no, I mean that is. Well, we'll have to see what happens. I mean, as things stand at the minute, we're not going to be able to afford to rotate massively in the Europa League later stages if we're still where we are in the Premier League, because I don't know, it's difficult, isn't it, to manage it with the squad that we've got, and that's the point, isn't it? Is the squad deep enough? I don't think it is at this moment in time to compete for the top 4 or even a title, possibly, as I know Neil thinks we're going to do. And the Europa League. I really, really would love to win that Europa League. I really, really want to win that not more than I want to win the Premier League. I just feel that the Premier League at this moment in time with Man City isn't necessarily realistic. The Europa League is, and I really desperately want to win that. But equally, I want to finish in the top 4 as well and do everything. But I mean, Neil, are you a little bit concerned about, not so much now, obviously we've only got 2 games left until the World Cup, but certainly in the new year when the Europa League gets a knockout stage, the FA Cup's going to come around, we still might hopefully be in the Carabao Cup as well, and then there's still the Premier League as it is. I mean, with the squad that we've got, it's not enough, is it, for us to compete on all of those fronts? We can't do what Liverpool did last season, for example, can we? Play in every single game possible.
Well, Liverpool, it showed, didn't it? I mean, as good as Liverpool were last season, they could manage it, could they? They can sustain it. And I agree with you on that one. We are short in depth. I think he will definitely get. I've got a feeling we're going to get 2 signings in January, at least 2, not just 1. I don't know what positions. I'm hoping one of them will be a central midfielder, because I do worry about Partey or Xhaka, something happening, or they're going missing for a while. So I think that's, for me, is paramount, but that's just my opinion. But I think the thing, Jerome made a good point, and I think what it is, I'm not even so sure Arteta expected this level of success in the Premier League. I don't think he did. And I think we've got to this position even quicker than he anticipated. And with that, I think it's a learning curve. The club is growing with the club as he's obviously managing them. And maybe he would have liked to maybe got that slight one extra addition in the summer. He didn't quite get it. So I think he'll try and maybe up the ante in January to get them in. And then, of course, next window in the summer, I think we'll start seeing some big players coming in, simply because I think we're going to have a successful season. And hopefully because of that, or from the back of that, the owners will back him even more and we will invest in more players. So I think I'm not worried, like Jerome said, I'm not worried at the moment, but let's see what happens come next year, calendar year, see where we are with everything. You're right, Richard. I mean, if we win on Wednesday, we're fighting on four fronts come the new year. So he's going to have to do something. My guess is I've got a feeling, and I know this is without any due disrespect to the League Cup, because I think a trophy's a trophy. I think we should always go for everything. But I've just got this feeling that he's definitely going to put that at the lowest end of priority. And I think we'll see quite a big change on Wednesday as well. I really do. In fact, in a way, I welcome it, because I'd like to see some of the players we haven't seen yet from the academy featuring in that competition. So it might not be such a bad thing. But I think come next season, I know I'm really looking ahead now, I think we will be more than adequately ready in terms of depth as well as the starting 11. I just don't think he expected us to be accelerating this fast in progress. I really don't.
No. You're probably right. I don't think anybody did. Let's be honest. None of us did, certainly, from what we've seen in the previous couple of seasons. I mean, the point Jerome made as well, actually, saying that, had we been in the Champions League this season, we wouldn't have been able to rotate. But I think had we been in the Champions League this season, we would have, our summer transfer window would have been different. And I think if we're in the Champions League next season, which we're all hoping that's going to be the minimum that we are, then I think the next summer transfer window is going to reflect that, because we've got a Champions League campaign coming, and I think we'll have to buy. We can't go out and buy another Fabio Vieira type player. We need to buy another 2 or 3 Jesus type players if we're going to compete in the Champions League, don't we? And that will depend on whether we're in it or not. So, and had we been in it this year, I think that would have reflected last summer as well, and obviously January. So I don't know. Yeah, we'll have to see. But yeah, ultimately, it's where we end up at the end of the season, isn't it? And you're right. Next season is going to be, it's probably the season where I think that the plan was for next season to be in the Champions League, competing for the trophies at that point rather than now. I agree. And you can see by the summer transfer window, I thought was about that, wasn't it? It was about trying to get into the top 4, not about trying to win the league or even trying to win the Europa League necessarily, but and that's what the summer window was about. But things have changed. We've moved on quicker, as you said, and hopefully January transfer window will reflect that, and we will enforce the squad enough that we need to get through the second half of the season in the way that we want to get through it and be successful, because we got a real big chance, haven't we, now of something this season, without a shadow of a doubt. Obviously, you mentioned it there, Neil, actually. When we were saying, obviously, Wednesday night, the Carabao Cup, you seem to be in favour of throwing in the kids. We'll see. I'm maybe not necessarily thinking that's what I want to do, but we'll see. I mean, Brighton are a bit of a bogey team for us in the last few years, haven't they? They've been a team that we have struggled against. Yes, their managers moved to Chelsea, and we didn't seem to struggle too much against them. But yeah, I mean, I think that in a normal season where we would be playing games all the way through to Christmas, I would have said, yeah, throw the kids in for the Carabao Cup, don't worry about it. But now we've only got 2 games left. We might as well go for it now, get through this round, and then in January, February, whenever the next round is going to be, we can see where we are there. But we might as well not give it away now. Go through this game, because we've got a break for 6 weeks. So why not just go for it? I wouldn't necessarily play the Premier League 11, because we've got the game at Wolves on Saturday, which is important. But I would be looking at more of a Europa League type team, as opposed to throwing in 6 or 7 kids, as we maybe used to do in the Carabao Cup years ago, when we were in the Champions League. So that would be my personal view on it. Not necessarily doesn't mean we can necessarily win the game anyway, because we still might lose regardless, or we still might win. But I mean, Melvin, what would you do with this game on Wednesday? Because it's a little bit of an inconvenience to a certain degree, because it's come when it's come now. We're not really that focused on it. But I wouldn't want to just give the game away. I'd rather play a fairly strong team, because we've left anyway.
Well, give the game away, and I don't ever do that. But this is so low down on our priorities I can't believe it. I mean, if you told me now we'd take the league, we'd win the League Cup, don't qualify for Europe, get knocked out in the FA Cup early, no way. This League Cup is, I'm sorry, we're better than that. And we have to take risks, we will. I do not want to risk anyone we shouldn't have to risk for the Wolves game. The Wolves game is a big, big game. I know this might be all different after the boys come back from the World Cup, but if we finish X amount of points clear of City over the break, that will give everyone that confidence to go again. If we suddenly have a slip up against Wolves and we're 1 point behind City going into the break, it's as deflating as you said if we lose the game against West Ham, in my opinion. So I don't want him to take any risks at all, if you can help it, on the Wolves game. I want him to, with the Brighton game, don't throw in all the kids, but play players that can win you the game without risking some very important first teamers, please, because the Wolves game is I know every game, league game now, is a cup tie, it seems, doesn't it? There's no right, you don't go, we got so and so this week, just get on with it.
Yeah.
Every game is so important because we've got momentum, and you mustn't give momentum away easily, and we mustn't do it this time. Just be sensible. Don't play like 16-year-olds or anything like that, but pick the team that can do you the job, that won't harm your first 11 that much. You know, obviously you can pick your Tierney's, people like that. You can pick. We don't know how bad Tommy is though. Actually, I haven't mentioned now. I don't know how bad he is. But you can pick other people. You can possibly play holding players like that, right?
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, the Europa League team. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Third liners. I'm just saying, you don't have to pick. If you don't have to pick a first teamer, don't. But that's what the manager's. That's what he's there for, and hopefully, seems like he knows what he's doing and get it right again.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the Wolves game is more important than the Brighton game. I think everyone agrees with that. I don't think there's any doubt about that.
By a long way. Long way.
Yeah, by the way, yeah, because winning, as you said, winning the League Cup or the Carabao Cup doesn't really bring anything else, does it? You don't get Champions League football out of it. You just get a nice little cup at the end of it, which is nice. We've won it before. It was our first trophy ever saw us win the League Cup, and I loved it. But yeah, the things have changed in football now, and certainly our position, it's changed a lot. But I just feel as though, because we've only got 2 games left, let's not necessarily play just disregard that game and disregard the competition. Let's try and get through and keep the season going and keep that competition going for now. And then obviously later on after Christmas, no doubt that's going to be even less of a priority, isn't it? When the Europa League kicks in again, the FA Cup, if we're through there and stuff like that, I wouldn't necessarily worry about it then. But for now, we may as well pick the Europa League team, I would say, and try and go through and keep that competition alive for now and see where we are. I mean, Joanne, what would you do then? What in your team selection for Wednesday? What would you do? Would you be sort of looking at maybe giving some players who haven't really played much football at all, some of the younger players, the academy players, the under 23s at the top of the league that have been sitting on the bench, or would you think, no, let's go for the Europa League team and let's go through if we can?
Yeah. So I see your point about there's obviously a break coming up. However, the starting 11 from Sunday, all of them would be either at home or up in the stands. I wouldn't even bother selecting any of those for the squad. No chance. I think what we need to think about as well is that we've got the fixtures after the World Cup. They're going to be condensed as well, and we've got 2 other Premier League games, 2 extra games to schedule. We've got the Everton game that we're supposed to play, and the Man City game. So I think he might not be thinking about the Wolves game as much. It might be right, if we do get past Brighton, then we're going to have to squeeze more games in. And I just think if we were mid-table and, we didn't have really much to look forward to, and, you could sort of cling on to a nice cup run as like something to save your season, maybe I'd play a bit of a stronger team. But the position we're in the league, if he plays any first teamers and we get a dodgy result at Wolves because either someone's injured, someone's run out of gas, someone picks up a red card, like it's not a sensible decision. As much as in the heart, you want to win every competition you go for. I think you just need to use your head a bit and say, right, on this occasion, this season, let's not risk any of these first team players because it just doesn't make sense. The risk reward isn't worth it. So, like Richard, I know what you're saying, and but I just think that when you weigh it up, I think he's got to just just play the players that haven't played, and you got to protect for Wolves, because look, we played Southampton away, and they were near the bottom of the league, and we drew against them. And I know Wolves are doing poorly, but you want to give yourself the best chance of winning that game and going into the break top of the league. So yeah, I wouldn't risk any of them. No way.
I mean, James's team that he's gone for here on Wednesday: Turner, Cedric, Holding, Gabriel, Tierney, El Neni, Laconga, Vieira, Nelson, Manquios, and Nketiah, which is basically almost a second 11, isn't it? I mean, Gabriel's in there, but we don't really have a lot of other centre backs, do we? I suppose that's probably why he's thrown Gabriel in here rather than Saliba. Which, yeah, I mean, that sort of team that do me. That team would be fine. You know, I don't know who would have on the bench though. That's the only thing. Would we? Obviously, in the Europa League, we've had Ødegaard on the bench, we've had Jesus on the bench, Saka on the bench, and all them, haven't we? That may be where the difference is. Maybe on the bench we will have more academy players rather than some of those. And I agree with you, Jerome. Maybe keeping a lot of those first 11, if you like, at home, watching it on telly, then that might be the better option, perhaps. But I think that the team that James picked there would be fine. That's a team that should be good enough, or is. Or potentially good enough to get the result to get through, which I think is still quite important. Momentum in the team, you don't want to lose a game, especially at home. We've won every game at home. You want to try and win, don't we? So, I mean, I quite like James's team. I mean, Neil, I know you said a few youngsters. I mean, that team that James has put there is quite good, isn't it? Would you be quite happy with that if that was the team at start?
Yeah, I keep chopping and changing. What you said, you made great points. Then what Melvin said, then what Jerome, like, oh God, I don't know where I stand now on this. But so I kind of agree with all of you. I wish we could just have a magic wand and everything just is okay. It's a tough one. It's quite a conundrum for Arteta, but I suppose that's why he's paid the money to do the job he does. So let's leave it to him. We can sit here and second guess and speculate and all the rest of it. But at the end of the day, it's down to him, and let's hope he does the right thing. I think James's team is fine, and I think that might be the difference. Rather than having all the first teamers on the bench, we'll have more of the youngsters to. Brighton are a tough unit. Let's not get away from that. They're a good team. They're a tough unit. They can beat anyone on their day without a shadow of a doubt. So if we play a weakened team, there's even more of a chance of that. It depends on who they bring out. I'm pretty sure they're going to go pretty strong. But at the end of the day, if we do well with, say, for example, hypothetically, James has got that spot on, and that's the team that he plays, and we're doing really well, and then we've got all just the first teamers on the bench, or majority of them, I think that's where it's an opportunity lost to see some of the maybe the players that we haven't seen before to come on and maybe do a job. There's so many arguments, pros and cons with this. Yes, we've got to keep the momentum going. Yes, we want to win everything. And then, yes, we've got to protect players for Wolves. It's so difficult, but I'm just excited for it, to be honest. I'm really anticipating what he does put out. If he does put a full team strength out and loads of senior players, I don't think I'll be too pleased. That's where I don't think I'll be too happy. But if it's a James-like team, then yeah, that's fine, 100%. Yeah,
no, I quite like James's team. Yeah, Shane says I would play the Europa League team against Brighton. The more of these players play together and continue with the play. Yes, that's a good point as well. Yeah, if they play together more, they're going to get more relationships built up, and hopefully it will help when they do have to play in the first team a bit more if they have to. John says John's in the chat. John, he says, what does everyone think of Jesus and Martinelli going to the World Cup? I don't think anybody should be going to the World Cup, if I'm totally honest, because it should be happening. But anyway, that's a different matter, I suppose. I mean, it'd be good for Martinelli because he was desperate to go. I heard his interview the other day, so he's going to be happy. So it's good for him. Yeah, it'd be good for Jesus. It might give him some confidence getting some goals. But the World Cup shouldn't be happening, should it? Really, let's be honest. And it's a joke that it is. But I mean, I don't know. Melvin, are you happy for Jesus and Martinelli that they're going to the World Cup, or would you rather they maybe stayed at home with their feet up, watching it on telly, or not watching it on telly?
I've got no interest in the World Cup. So I think next year's marbles competition.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. But yeah, I personally would be happy if none of our players were at the World Cup, because then they can put them in a little box and protect them for 6 weeks.
Yeah, exactly.
Saying whatever Michael Jackson used to go, something like that. But yeah, we're not really bothered about the World Cup. John says Wolves could be another banana skin as they're fighting for survival. Yeah, we'll talk about Wolves in a minute. And John says that's a good team. Let them go out and prove they want to change for first team place. Exactly. That's what these games are for, aren't they? For these fringy players to say, right, step up. So far in the Europa League, they've struggled a little bit with that. But let's see, give them another chance Wednesday. And let's hope that they can get the result. And as we mentioned, obviously, we have got one more Premier League game before the break, which we're all looking forward to. And it is, as John rightly said there, potential banana skin. Now, of course, Wolves away, the last 2 seasons, we've had 3 players sent off in this fixture. David Luiz and Bernd Leno the season before, and last season, Martinelli for those 2 ridiculous yellow cards in the same phase of play. So that doesn't bode well, does it? But anyway, they've also got the new manager kind of situation, haven't they? Their new manager's come in this week, and we saw what a new manager made to Aston Villa. Their first home game, he came in, our old friend Unai, they were fired up, won that game. Wolves have got a new manager coming in, and what impact is that going to make on this game? You're looking at a league table, you think, yeah, we can go away at Wolves, we should win, we've got a decent record there overall. But new manager syndrome, we've seen it happen plenty of times, and I say recently as well. That's a little bit of a worry for me, just on that basis alone, really. That can make a big difference, can't it? The bounce that you get and the difference, he's going to pick a different team. Everyone's going to be fired up. The crowd will be fired up. And it could be maybe this game's a little bit of a come at a bad time to be playing Wolves, perhaps this particular week of all weeks, really. I mean, what are you thinking about this game, Melvin? Because obviously, looking at league table, we should win 3 or 4-0. But looking at the circumstances around the game, I don't think it's going to be like that at all now, is it?
If we're as good as we think we are, if we're focused like we should be, if the players give 100% like they've been doing the last few months, then I haven't got a problem with who the manager is. It's only if we have worries about ourselves and we think it's so easy, if the manager or allows the players to think it's an easy game. So no, forget the manager. Yeah, they do teams do normally do better with a new manager, but I think we as a team are a little bit better than that to let that worry us. We should be better than that, and hopefully we are.
Yeah, we should be 100%. But I say it doesn't always work like that, does it? I'm certainly a little bit more sceptical about this game now with the new manager than I would have been a week or so ago when they looked like they were all over the place. They didn't have a manager. They were not. I mean, they lost on Saturday at home to Brighton. Jerome, what are you do you think that this is going to maybe be a tougher game than we initially thought it may have been? Or as Melvin rightly said, we're a better team than them and we should win, shouldn't we? Really?
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, just away games in general in the Premier League are tough, like Leeds, Southampton. But I think what that result has done as well for us on Sunday is I think teams fear us now. I think they're going to start to show us a lot of respect, and I think that's going to help us and the confidence in that team after Sunday. Whereas maybe recently or in recent years going away, there's been a bit of apprehension, perhaps. I just think they're going to go there thinking that they're going to win, and expecting to win. But Arteta's going to make sure their feet are on the ground. He's not going to let them get carried away with it. Also, there's just so much good energy around the place. I think that despite the new manager, blah blah blah. I just think that I think if they put in the performance that they can, I think they'll come away with 3 points. But it's not going to be easy though.
No,
we could make it easier for ourselves if we score a couple of early goals, which we like to do. But looking forward to it.
Well, you say a couple of early goals away from home. We haven't scored more than once since the Brentford game, which was ages ago. We seem to keep scoring 1 goal away from home. We won 1-0 at Leeds, 1-0 at Bodo Glimt. We drew 1-1 at Southampton, 1-0 at Chelsea. It seems like we're only scoring 1 goal away from home at this moment in time. But it'd be nice to get a couple of goals up, wouldn't it? That would certainly ease the pressure a little bit. But I think it's going to be a tough game as well. I really do. Regardless of the fact that they've got a new manager, I just think when you're playing any team that's struggling at the bottom of the league, they're desperate for points. They are scrapping for everything, aren't they? And I think they're not going to want to go into the World Cup break in the bottom 3. They're going to want to win the game and get themselves out, aren't they? So I think it's going to be tough. I mean, Neil, did you think that this new manager thing? We've been victims of that plenty of times over the years, haven't we? A new manager's come in and we've played a team and they've beaten us on the back of that, and I'm a little bit that's nagging away at me slightly, even though I look at Wolves' team and think they can't score goals. They've got, they're not playing with any confidence whatsoever, and we have got a decent record against them overall. So, but it's a slightly different set of circumstances. I mean, what are you kind of anticipating for this one?
I'm going to have to be really quick because I have to shoot off in a second, guys. So just want to say thank you first to everyone, and also pleasure to be with Jerome and Melvin and yourself and everyone in the chat. So thank you for all the comments, etc. But I think it's going to be a tough ask. But I think the way we're playing at the moment, the way Arteta's got the players going, I'm not fearful. You know, we could have succumbed to so many away games this season, and we haven't. We've answered the questions every single time. Brentford, Crystal Palace, you know, Chelsea. We've gone in there and answered all the questions when people have thought we're going to fail. And Wolves is going to be no different to me. End of the day, we've got to be playing the players on the pitch, not who the manager is. It's the same way sometimes, you know, you get that mental block if you go away to Anfield and you're playing, oh my God, we're playing Liverpool at Anfield. Oh my God, we're playing United at
like I said last season on the documentary.
You've just got to be playing the players on the pitch and don't worry about who the manager is, who the players are, even what the names are at the back of their shirts. Just get on with it. And I think we'll be all right. And I'm just going to quickly, before I go, give you quick predictions. I think Brighton will be 3-1 to us, and Wolves will be 2-1 to us. So there we go.
Wow. Well, we'll take
thank
that.
You so much. Enjoy the rest of the podcast.
See you, Neil. Speak to you soon.
Cheers, mate. We'll speak soon. Yeah, take it easy, man.
Take care. Bye.
Cheers, mate. Speak to you later. Well, I mean, that's two. We wouldn't expect anything less from Neil, would we? In 2 victories, predicting obviously, because you know he thinks we're going to win every single game, which is fine. I mean, none of us want to predict a defeat because at this moment in time, I don't feel that we are going to lose to anybody the way we're playing. I mean, Melvin, what would be your prediction then for Brighton and then Wolves as well? What would you be thinking? I know it's going to be 2 very different games, 2 very different starting 11s, you'd imagine, but ultimately we want 2 very similar results, don't we?
I'm flipping Neil's results. I'm going we win just about straight through 1-0 with Brighton and beat Wolves 3-0.
3-0?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think
that's very positive.
I think Jesus is getting closer to Christmas, remember? I think it could be all right for him. He'll suddenly get it. He get a couple.
We might have to wait till Boxing Day though, Melvin, because that's like the day after his birthday and that. You know what I mean? So we might have to wait till then for his next goal, but you never know. You never know. But I mean, 3-0 at Wolves would be great. I mean, I think that would be a brilliant result, actually. But you know, you may well be right. Who knows? I mean, do you know what are you thinking then for these 2 games, prediction-wise? What would you go for those 2?
Yeah, so I think Brighton will be very close just because of the team he selects. So I'll predict a penalty shootout victory in the Brighton game.
Wow. Okay.
Just to mix it up a bit.
Yeah,
and I think Wolves will be 2-0 to Arsenal.
Okay, yeah, well, that would... I mean, both of those 2 results would do us. There's no extra time in a Carabao Cup, is there? It's 90 minutes and penalties, isn't it?
I think Carabao, or whatever it's called now, should just be just go straight to penalties. No 90 minutes, just penalties.
Just play penalties at the start. Yeah, that might be a good idea, actually. Save everyone the bother. Don't let the crowd in. Just put a penalty shooter. That's it, right? That's it, done. We're through or we're not. That might be a good idea, actually. Maybe do that after Christmas when it all starts hotting up. Terry says, right, so I've got to go to work. Have a great evening, everyone. I'll watch the rest when I get home later. Well, yeah, cheers, Terry. We'll speak to you later, mate. So good to see you again. John says, 100% agree with you. It's crazy. I won't be bothered with it, and better off no Arsenal players go to the World Cup. Yeah, of course. Yeah, I think we all kind of agree with that. John says who would have forecast Villa beating United 3-1? Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. New manager bouts. It happens. It happens a lot, and that's what's nagging away in my head a little bit. I don't want to think about it too much. Jeffar says they're 2-0 to Arsenal. Yeah, well, 2-0 to Arsenal would be absolutely fantastic, wouldn't it? Jeffar says, let's all remember Wolves are missing 2 key players. Oh, yes, Semedo's suspended, and also, of course, our old friend Diego Costa as well. He's suspended as well, isn't he? Which is a shame. So, yeah, that's something that we have to remember there. It says, yes, obviously Diego Costa and Semedo. Yeah, so, but yeah, I think Brighton will be tough because the team that we'll select, I think Brighton will fancy their chances. You know, they're playing well at the minute. They're suddenly scoring some goals. I want to think we'll go through. Yeah, I think it might be tight. I wouldn't be surprised if we did go penalties, actually. No, I think we'll win. I'll go 2-1 in 90 minutes against Brighton. And I think Wolves will be really tough. I've got to be honest. I really do. I would say... I'll tell you what, we seem to be doing it a lot. I'm going to go 1-0 because we're winning 1-0 a lot at the minute. Another 1-0. That'll do. 3 points. Lovely.
Yeah. Who's going to score the goal? Ian Wright?
Yeah, Ian Wright might score, yeah. Or it might be Tony Adams from a corner. Flick on a corner.
Flick on from Bold.
Yeah, he flick on from Bold. Yeah, he comes down the back and scores. But I don't know. I just feel that, Wolves will have a lift. The crowd will be mad. I think the first 20 minutes are going to be tough. And then I think eventually our quality will show and we'll get the goal and we will win. We did win 1-0 last season, of course, didn't we? Gabriel, funny enough, with that goal as well. And he's just scored the winning goal against Chelsea. But he probably won't score again. And maybe it will be Jesus. Maybe it will. He might get the goal and we'll all be happy that he's finally scored. It should be nice. But yeah. Well, yeah, just let him keep doing what he's doing without really mind too much.
Buses, Richard, London buses.
Yeah, I think that's what's going to happen when he gets one. I think the floodgates will open a bit. I think he tends to be a bit of a streaky scorer, doesn't he? He did it last season with Man City, didn't he? He went on a run of scoring a load of goals. And I think he did it at the start of this season, didn't he? Scored a couple, then he got a few more. And I think once he gets one, he'll end up scoring in 3 or 4. Well, he won't score in 3 or 4 games now because we haven't got 3 or 4 games left. But once he comes back, but yeah, it's going to be a good week again, isn't it? Let's hope that this time next week we will be sitting here and we can still be able to sing this. Let's hope another week will be nice. And we go into, obviously, if we're top of the league on Sunday, we'll actually be top of the league on Christmas Day because it's the last game before Christmas, which is unusual. It's early November. We're saying, no, it's the last game before Christmas. But this year, it's a little bit of a strange year, isn't it? Jeff Ross says, Brighton look absolutely silky, but I doubt their defence. We need to capitalise on that. Yeah, they've conceded a few goals. They score a few goals as well. So it could be entertaining. Maybe it's going to be 4-3 or something like that. Who knows? But yeah, we look forward to that. Obviously, Wednesday. And of course, I say Sunday's going to be. I know Saturday, isn't it? Saturday evening. Actually, we're playing, aren't we? Is it 7:45 kickoff? Isn't it on a Saturday, which is a strange time for a Saturday? But anyway, they've got to squeeze all the games in, I suppose. So yeah, we look forward to all of that. And yeah, hopefully 2 more good wins for Arsenal, and we'll be still smiling a bit longer, won't we? Which is it's been pretty good lately. So that has been the Arsenal review then. Some positive stuff to look back on, some exciting games hopefully coming up this week to look forward to. And some good stuff on the channel as well. Obviously, there'll be a watch along on Wednesday of the Brighton game. On Thursday, Adam and Steve are back with the review, with the extra social show, which is really good. So join them for that on Thursday. Friday, we'll be doing the England Lionesses. They're playing Japan, so we'll maybe watch that game. And then Saturday, of course, Wolves is going to be the big one. So join us for all of that. I may be having a special guest coming on tomorrow. I've got to confirm that yet. That may be a former Arsenal Academy manager. He's going to be a coach. He's going to be appearing hopefully tomorrow. If not, it might have to be next week. But I'll confirm that later. So loads of stuff on the channel. So please consider subscribing. Thank you very much to Melvin, of course, as always. Have you enjoyed the show?
Richard. Really enjoyed it with this stranger below me. Enjoyed it.
Yes, he's not a stranger to the show anyway. Jerome as well. Good to see you again.
Yeah, cheers, Rich. Thank you very much. Cheers for having us.
No problem at all. And of course, Neil as well, who had to shoot off just a moment ago. Good to see Neil as always. His positivity just emits out of him, doesn't it? Like the sunshine. So he's a ray of sunshine on the channel, which is good. So yeah, we will be back on. Definitely Wednesday for the game. Maybe tomorrow if I can confirm our special guest coming, but we'll let you know about that. So definitely join us if you can very, very soon. And this has been the Arsenal review. This is over and over and over again. My name is Richard, and we will see you on the next one. And in the meantime, as always, come on, you Gunners. Top of the league. Let's have it. Real Martinelli. It's now with Granit Xhaka. Is it going to be the third goal? It is the third goal. Granit Xhaka with it. That seems